Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. On today's episode, we have a very, very special guest, Miranda Flinchum. Miranda, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. I had a great breakfast, awesome coffee, and I'm excited to learn more about you and what you do. So with that being said, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Miranda. I am the owner of Mindful Messaging, and I basically just help therapists fill their caseload and grow their practice by building on websites that are actually working for them.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. How did you get into that, Miranda?
Yeah, so I have quite an origin story. So I've always been a creative, and I learned how to build websites and do coding at a pretty young age, at around 13 years old. And, going into high school, going into college, I was like, well, I was kind of worried I wasn't going to be able to make money doing the things that I enjoyed with my creative side. So I actually went and did my next favorite thing, which was becoming a therapist. And I went to school to be a therapist, and I'm still like a big nerd for psychology and neuroscience. But as I was in it in my early 20s, I was like, I don't think this is for me. I think I really want to go back into the design world. So I ended up getting my degree in design, really quickly got jobs in agencies. I've been working with agencies for quite a while. And then I actually decided to go on my own. And when I went on my own, I was like, kind of just trying to feel out who it is that I really wanted to work for, like who I wanted to help serve and help, build their marketing. So I tried all these different industries working with them, and I ended up just really discovering that I absolutely love working with therapists. So I now am in this situation where I have the best of all worlds. I get to work with every single industry. Like I get to work with therapists who I love, psychologists. Like I get to have these amazing conversations with all sorts of psychologists throughout the US, and then still do the creative side and do the coding and do all that fun stuff. So I really get to live the best of all worlds. It's pretty exciting.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So many threads to pull on, but I like to kind of stay focused on your company itself. Um, what is kind of have you seen any of myths or any kind of common trends in your space that that exist in the therapy world?
Oh, so many. I guess it depends on which thread we want to go with that because there's so many different ones. When it would come to myths, I think the biggest one that I always come across is that therapists think that SEO is the main foundation for all of their marketing. And I will start by saying that is absolutely not true. Is it a good one? Yes, but it's not something that you want to start until a little bit later. Once you have a little bit more of a developed, usually how I like to start it is a little bit more of a developed who you like to work with, so specialization or niche. And then when you have a more developed website, because a lot of people, they want to spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on SEO. And you can have the world's best SEO, but if people are finding you on Google because of SEO and they're clicking on your website and they feel completely disconnected, it's cold, it's not what they're looking for, they're going to jump off. So all of that money you just put into SEO is gone. It's very sad.
Yeah, and nobody has that kind of money, I think, to just blow and or send it down the drain. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wonder. So it sounds like the website is kind of like the center hub in a way, in a
Yes.
wheel with a lot of spokes, and the website's in the center. It seems like, and then all the things kind of branch out. Is that like a fair analogy to use?
Yeah, so I always say that your website is your engine. So you have a whole marketing engine, and your website is going to be this engine. And if it's not running, you can put all this fuel, being social media, SEO, Google Ads. You can put all of this external marketing into it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how much fuel you put into it. If the engine's not working, it's not going to turn on, So you always want to make sure that your engine is fully ready to start receiving all of this fuel.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned earlier websites being cold. Um, I wonder what are why do some therapists miss the mark when it comes to their messaging, maybe their website? What's going on with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this is the thing is therapists only know how to be therapists, which is totally understandable. And that's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be doing therapy. So marketing is a whole nother industry. And therapists, a lot of them do like build their own websites, which is totally fine. And I see why they do that. But what ends up happening is that therapists only know how to speak like a therapist. Like when you're a therapist, you don't know how to not be a therapist. So it's hard to kind of put your shoes as the person who is looking for therapy. And a lot of therapists miss this mark of their messaging where they're really relying on ChatGPT, or they're relying on somebody else's website, which usually pretty much sounds the same. And when everybody's website is sounding like ChatGPT, or it's not clear about who it is that you're specifically helping or what makes you different from the thousands of other therapists out there, that's what makes it cold. And as a therapist, when people are coming to look for you and your services, all they don't know anything about, some of them know what EMDR is, but really for the most part, nobody understands this clinical language. All they understand is how they feel. And when they come to your website, they want to feel understood and that they can trust you. And if you're not speaking about them and you're only speaking about you and there's no emotional connection to it, you're not memorable. I mean, as psychologists know this, like people remember things based off of emotion, right? If they're feeling a specific emotion, they're going to remember that. So imagine going on Psychology Today or going through all these websites and they're all sounding the same. Are you going to be the one that people remember? Probably not if you sound just like the other 10.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. And I do agree with that. Absolutely. In that we use a lot of insider language, even in my own podcast. I'll be interviewing my people, my clinicians. I love them. And then we'll also be using, I do brain spotting and And I'm like, what, like, for somebody that doesn't know anything about brain spotting, can you kind of break that down in the most simplest way and how that can help people? Because you're right. We are in the field with the vernacular is so common to us. It's what we use on a daily almost. And so it could be very easy to miss the messaging piece. And I think that's so important. When it comes to messaging, Miranda, and maybe storytelling, if that's a thing, how do you help guide clinicians to be better storytellers with their marketing material?
Yeah. So, you want to think of it as like when you're getting to know somebody, right? Like say you just met somebody, like you really want to start off pretty small. Like maybe it's just like very simple things like, hey, I'm Miranda. I own a business. I'm a mom, right? And then as, you guys are speaking to each other, you get a little bit further into the conversation and you don't really you start talking about things that builds a relationship, right? Like things that you guys can kind of relate on together. And then it kind of, as you start building that trust, then you start to get to know each other on a more deeper level. And then you get to that intimate part of being like, we should exchange contact information. And that's how it is with our marketing. So like when people are getting on your website, like they need to know in the first 3 to 5 seconds, like what it is that you do, who you help, and the outcome that you provide for them. And then you start going a little bit more into like, do you ever feel like this, but you want to feel like this? And then people are like, yeah, actually, that's exactly how I'm feeling. And then it makes them want to know more. Okay, well, like, who is this person? Who are you? Like, how are you in my brain right now? And then that's when it's like, now they've developed that trust. And this is all emotional storytelling that you're telling with them. Like you're going into what it is you do, who you help, the pains, all of that. And it feels very deep rooted for them. And then you also start talking about you a little bit in your experience. Like, and when I say experience, like, it's great that you guys went to school. Like, we love that, but we want to know, like, what's your why? Like, what? And we're in this world now when it comes to looking for a therapist, people want to know, like, what brought you here? And they want to work with a therapist who sometimes has lived experiences too. That's like a really common thing. People are really pushing away from that checklist style therapy. Not saying all of them, but it's just a pretty common thing that I've been seeing. And that's that emotional storytelling. And that's what gets people to actually want to reach out to you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And me as I was shopping around for a therapist for myself a while ago, and it was tough, I'll tell you, because like going back to what you said earlier, that a lot of the Psychology Today profiles just look the same. And I'm like, it's almost like the Psychology Today profiles are positioning themselves as like, hey, look at me, look at what I've done, look at my school, look at my accomplishments, and this is who I work with, and that's great. But like very few, I would say, share their why or their story beyond just like, hey, I want to help people, I love helping people, and I get that, that's beautiful, but everybody says that, everybody says I enjoy working with my demographic. um with that being said, Miranda, I'm curious, how important is it to like really focus on like colors and graphics? I find a lot of people really kind of spend a lot of time there. Like, oh, I gotta get the right colors and I want to put my branding and like the pictures. Is that really important, or kind of maybe a better way of asking is like, and on the level of priorities, what's more important? Is it the pictures and the graphic and the design piece, or is it like the text and what we're conveying to the client?
That's an excellent question. I can 100% see why people do feel very focused on the colors. If I had to choose, I would say the messaging is going to be the strongest point. I do think colors are important, especially with therapists in branding. Like every single, even big Fortune 500s, they're very intentional with their colors. But the thing is it's not just their favorite colors. It's also like, what would my clients like to see? Now with therapists, right? You guys are ultimately really trying to showcase yourself. So putting some of your favorite colors are definitely like, I always like to do this with my clients. Like, what are colors that represent you? But then we also want to think of like, what are colors that these people are going to feel drawn to? And then you kind of find that happy medium, because that's one of those things like visual psychology, the design of psychology is very real. If your design and your fonts and your colors are absolutely crazy, you work with neurodivergent people, that's not going to work really well for you. So you do have to really consider those things. Like it's okay to love lime green and black, but I don't think neurodivergent people are going to feel safe coming onto a black background with neon green text, So those are things that you have to consider, because when they first come on there, if they're instantly overwhelmed, they might not be reading at all. Yeah. But so when they get on there, if they're like, okay, the colors, the design and everything is working, they're subconsciously thinking these things, right? Yeah. Then that's when they're going to start getting into the storytelling, the reading, and then that's what's going to really pull you in.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting, Miranda, is I think every therapist can agree with this statement, and that is that the relationship with the client is probably more important in many cases than the intervention itself, right? And what I'm hearing from you is that it's really important to take that same approach when we're building out a website, right? Where we want to build a relationship with the client potentially, and that involves exactly what you talked about, like the color schemes and the storytelling and all that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, relationships, everything. I mean, this is a very vulnerable thing that people are going through. Like, people feel like when they're looking for therapy, like, you guys really are, you're not just any other service. Like, this is really like, you guys get to go sit down with people who are feeling their most vulnerable, right? And that is a very, very personal thing. And that is something that it's harder for some people more than others, So, yeah, I think it's really important to really tap into that. And if you do it right in your marketing and you do it right in your website and everything, when people are going to book with you, they have already told themselves that even if it was just a free consultation, they've already psychologically told themselves, this is it. This is who I'm booking sessions with. Nobody else matters. You're coming to the free consult, like, let's see what happens. No, they already decided. They're like, this is the therapist. I will wait. I will pay private pay, and I will wait 2 weeks if I have to. This is who I want. Because it's that special. It's not like every other service, like going to Target or Walmart. Like, it's not like that. Or it's like, picking a babysitter. I mean, there's some of that, but this is like very personal with our feelings. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, obviously babysitters are very important too, but I think that it's just more personal, right? Yeah. And this is our minds, so there's a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And that, people are looking for somebody to invite into their very intimate and personal world, and they're probably a little bit more discerning than when you're just kind of looking for any other kind of service, like a plumbing service or something like that.
Yeah.
Miranda, I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk about the work you do with your clients. And I know that you design websites primarily. But when you're talking and consulting with your clients, is there like mindset shifts that they have to go through in order to make a successful website?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot. And I think that like some of the biggest things is that there's so much marketing advice out there, especially when a lot of our therapists, you know, they are in Facebook groups, they are very connected to the other therapists and whatnot. And sometimes it's really hard to, um, I think, keep therapists in like a solid framework because there's so many. I mean, it's really easy to want to stem out and try new things. And I think that the mindset the mindset shift that I think a lot of therapists need to have is like, it's okay if we just try one or two things and figure out what works. You don't have to try everything. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars if it's not in the budget. Also, when it comes to like specializations and niching, like when it comes to that, you don't have to necessarily like niche a specific modality. You can, but you also want to find a niche that fulfills you as well. And niching also includes outcomes, right? It doesn't, if you're like, hey, I do all these modalities, like I want to keep them all, like that's totally fine. But like, do you like working with kids? Do you like working with adults? Do you like working with people with eating disorders? Like people, they're like, oh, well, I do trauma, right? Okay, so like, what about it? Like, there's so much to stem from that. And it's really trying to like narrow it down to like this like thinner funnel because yes, everybody, you know, says they do trauma, but there's so much more to that. And I think trying to get therapists to kind of like, you know, when I do strategy calls with them, that's what we really do is we have these conversations. And it's so funny, most of them have specialties. They just we just have to have the conversation and like really get it on paper and like say it out loud together. And then we kind of develop this like specialty. So it's really just getting into that mindset. And then once we're there, getting comfortable, because sometimes we get cold feet and we get worried like, oh, I just niched down to being a trauma therapist for veterans. Like, I'm so scared. Like, does that mean that I'm, you know, removing all these other trauma people? And it's like, don't worry about that. Like, it's going to work out for you. I mean, so it's really hard getting out of that mindset. And I see it all the time. But then as soon as we get like the websites launched and everything starts going, they're just like, you were right, Miranda. I love this. And then they like start feeling all excited about it again. And like, they're not as worried. And now they're in that next phase of being a business owner. And it's so exciting. I love it.
Miranda, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I've even noticed that myself that, a lot of people will do trauma or perfectionism or whatever. And it just seems like it's so broad. It's so general that like, and I was just thinking about this the other day, actually. I was like looking at some Psychology Today profiles and they were targeted towards the high achievers, the high achievers with perfectionism that struggle with stress. And I'm like, what is a high achiever? I'm like, am I a high achiever? Like in some ways I am, in some ways I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, do
Mm-hmm.
high achievers even see themselves as high achievers, And so
Mm-hmm.
it just really got me wondering about the language that we use. And it's really awesome that you actually do these calls with your clients to help them kind of refine that because we really do start off so broad. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we use these terms? Is it because these terms are out there and they're really popular and common, or are we missing something in our training? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it happens because it is, again, kind of like that scarcity mindset, feeling that they want to keep it a little bit more open. They're worried that they're going to lose caseload potential or like having more people coming in. Also, another thing too is I know a lot of people utilize like ChatGPT as a tool to kind of help them, but I think it's pretty clear ChatGPT isn't always going to be the answer. It's a tool, but I think a lot of people are really highly dependent on it, especially when it comes to business leading. And yeah, I think it mostly is just like that scared to push away people. Like they're worried about that. And just like you said, I see the high achiever thing all the time. And when it comes to high achievers, I agree. Because you can say neurodivergent people, usually high achievers, but they don't see it,
Mhm.
But then we also have our entrepreneurs, right? High achievers, but they're burnt out. So it is like, obviously those can become two and two, but it is like, who are you talking to? And you can be
Right.
a high achieving teen or you can be a high achieving adult, right? With kids, like it's all very different. And sometimes what I recommend for people to do is if you are feeling stuck in that, ask yourself, write down what are the main pain points? What are the main things that people are saying to you at the consultations that you're excited to work with? And then identify, like, if it's very specific things, identify what does that person look like? Let's, like, you even think of like your 3 favorite clients that you have, and it's okay to have favorites. It's okay. We're humans, right? Like, it's okay to have favorites. Like, what are they like? Who are they? Is there a specific age in common? Do they have specific pain points in common? Are they married? Like, what is that like? And that is your specific target that you're really trying to reach.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I know you mentioned earlier mindset shifts,
Mhm.
and I think we just kind of talked about the mindset shift of the niche. Are there any other types of mindset shifts that need to occur for somebody to set up a really successful website?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, ultimately a practice and, marketing, you have a business and there's a lot of mindset shifts. I mean, I think all business owners can relate to this, there's so much that you have to like really consider when you're doing everything, right? And I think also too, like it's really easy for therapists, I think, to get kind of stuck in this thought that they have to do everything alone, right? And because everybody is very dependent on you and your workspace, right? But it is okay to ask for help for things. And it is okay to make mistakes in this too. It is totally okay. I know like you guys are busy, especially if your caseloads are filling up and you guys are also getting a little drained too, but you have to make sure that you are like taking care of yourself too, because it gets a little rocky, but then it starts to smooth out. Once you figure out like the flow, like once you start figuring out how you're able to get more people in. So if we are like, hey, I'm doing really good with this primed up website that I'm investing in, and then I'm doing really good with putting in SEO after or Google ads. If it's working for you and it's consistently coming in, you will get comfortable, right? You will get comfortable and there will be this nice, easy flow coming in, right? So, you don't have to keep starting something new. If it's working, we keep working with that. And if you are looking to grow into a group practice, then that's something that you can kind of shift into. But it's easy to lose steam. You have to be mindful that you don't have to do everything. You can actually, it's okay to have help. You're going to make mistakes along the way. It's normal. And don't take everyone's advice too. It's really one of those things like you have to try things out for yourself. You don't have to go all in all the time, especially with external marketing. And don't take everyone's advice. I mean, I see the Facebook groups all the time, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, I do this," or "Oh, I do that," but nobody's really speaking about results. If people are speaking about results and they're like, "My caseload's filled, I'm doing A, B, and C," ask to have a conversation with them. Those are who you want to talk to. You don't want to just start receiving advice from someone who's like, "I had my cousin build this $25 Wix website. Here's their number." Okay, but like, what's your case like? Like, are your goals matching mine? So there's just a lot of cloudiness, and you just got to push it away, get clear in the lane, and just like hit a bump and know that that's a growth bump and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I love that because I think it's so true, to look to people that have what you want to have, in a healthy way, right? Like if you want a group practice and look to the group practice owners that are successful and then maybe get advice from them by somebody else who you don't know what they have because, they don't say that or they don't disclose that, and I think that's excellent sound advice, Miranda. Um, I like to talk about your marketing because I know you build websites. Is that like a primary function of your business, the website building, or are you more like a marketing agency that happens to build websites?
Yeah, so what I do is I am a marketing agency, but my specific website is set up where I just build websites. And the reason I do that is because I don't put any other marketing stuff on my website, because if somebody was to reach out to me and was like, "Hey, I want SEO, I want social media," but their website is not right, like it's not working for them, it's just not a part of my values to be like, "Yeah, let me take your money even though I know it's not going to work." Like, so I actually, when people work with me and we build their website, and now I'm like, I know you at this point, like I know your practice and all of these like bells and whistles of what it is that you're doing. Then what happens is now we have this relationship. And if you are like, "Hey, Miranda, well, I got this lovely website you built me. What's next?" We're a team now. So I will point you in the right direction. We can do strategy calls. Or if you're like, hey, I need business cards, whatever, then I can help you with that. But I only specifically work with my clients that I have that I built the websites with, because it's something that that I now know is capable of working for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like we talked about earlier, like it's that engine, and like once you built the engine and you know that what the engine is and how it's done, and because you designed it, you did it, then you could start building that car around that engine, and that makes a whole lot
Mhm.
of sense. At least that's how what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
Miranda, I like to ask about the going back to the design itself of the websites. We talked about how maybe there are some populations like the neurodivergent population that may be kind of put off by some of these brighter neon colors. um, do you find that as people refine their niche, so too will the design of the site change as they refine it? Do you know what I mean?
It really depends. So, I mean, usually when I am doing like people's websites, I am very conscious that I think a lot of people have a little neurodivergence in them, it seems, or like a lot of therapists at least really want, like, they do have neurodivergent clients, or, um, you know, so I am very mindful of that. So I usually stay away from like heavy animations. That's like my biggest no-no. Like, it's okay to have like a little like zoom in, zoom out situation that's soft, subtle, whatever it may be. But like having those like heavy animations are just a no go. Also, just you also want to think about compliance too, when it comes to ADA compliance, because if we are doing like, if we have, say, it's a really dark background and a dark font on front of it, and yeah, maybe it looks cool. Or if we have a heavily imaged background and then we have text on front, like, I mean, you don't have to be neurodivergent to not read that. Like, I wear glasses and I have a hard time reading it. It's like everybody, I think, would have a hard time reading it. So my whole thing is that I really just prepare it for like anybody when it comes to like the heavy. I don't really use neon colors because those are just, those are a little too much for people
Mhm.
in general. But if there was a situation where it's like, yeah, most of my clientele are like autistic parents or something like that, then we really absolutely would just like really solidify things and like really get a little bit deeper into reconstruction of things. If it was like, yeah, we're going from here and we really want to tone it down this, then 100%, like without a doubt, it's a non-negotiable to make that adjustment.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. Miranda, I wonder, when you're building a website, what are some of like the core, um, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the core things that a website should have, because I find people talking about how like, oh, you should have a blog page and you should have a media page and like all these different pages that seem to be like the basics. But in your opinion, what is kind of like a solid website as far as what kind of pages they have?
Yeah, so I mean, with the pages, like, yeah, blogs are great if you are really pushing into like the SEO realm. 100% have a blog. I think that that is always great to have, once you get to that point. But again, that is external marketing that you are putting into your internal engine. So again, I think, getting that website really primed up. Obviously, our home pages are very important. You kind of have to have that home page. Having services pages really helps. So when you are like, hey, I have this very specific niche, when you start getting into the service pages, what you can do is, I never really break up service pages based off of like, modalities or clinical things, right? You want it to be based off of identities. So if it is like, I work with people with eating disorders, okay, well, maybe you work with teens and adults, right? They're going to have very specific problems. So you'll have a service page for the teens. And if you have a service page for the teens, or maybe it's like parent support for teens, right? This page now of services, you want the language to be speaking to that parent who's reading it, who has a teen that's struggling with an eating disorder. Those problems are like, dinner talks, right? Talks at dinner, and like mood swings at school and problems at school and stuff like that, where eating disorders as an adult is going to be a little bit different, right? So having those service pages that are niching further, like talking a little bit deeper, are very, very important. And then also too, I always love having, like, if you do have a lot of like conditions, right, that you really do focus on, or if you are very like, I specialize really well in certain modalities, like maybe you're like excellent at EMDR, that's what people come to you about, have pages like that too. That's okay, because that's one of those things where it's like, you can really educate people on what EMDR is, but also educate like what that looks like. Having like that areas of focus page where it's the list of conditions, and it's not necessarily always educational. You still want to pull out those like emotional things. Like, do you ever feel like this? Well, maybe this is this, or are you ever feeling like this? Let's talk about that. So I think those are really important. And then always having a contact page or a contact form. You always want to have like a contact button, whether it be a full page itself or it takes you somewhere onto your website so people can reach out to you. Also buttons for your EHR. Like if you have simple practice, connect that EHR widget. Just do it. Put your buttons. So I think that as long as people are very clear about like what it is that you do, those pages like that are the most important. And then ways to contact you. Those are going to be your number one priority pages. All those other pages, those are kind of just add-ons. Those are really building up SEO, building authority. When it comes to therapists too, there's that hot topic of testimonials. It is definitely one of those things where it's really difficult to show social proof, like why, like what makes you qualified, right? And I think that if you are somebody who is, educating, or you are working with like interns or anything like that, 100%, if you're offering classes, whatever it may be, put that on your website. Have a for professionals page, because that does show social proof as well. Even if it is really targeted to other people who are in clinical practice, your clients are also seeing that too. They're seeing that, okay, other clinicians trust this person. So that is, they might not be reading it and understanding it, but to them, it gets a signal like, this is an important person.
Yeah, that's great. And a couple things that came to mind as you were saying that, Miranda. The first one is I remember reading a case study in one of my marketing classes talking about how this company was selling tricycles, and there was two different personas that they were going after: the budget conscious parents that were trying to in the market for the tricycles, and then also that same company was marketing to the grandparents who wanted to splurge on a tricycle for their grandchild. They had a little bit of money, the birthday was coming up and it was Christmas, and they were just trying to splurge to like feel good about themselves because, I got you a really nice tricycle. And so as you were saying that, it just came to mind that you're so right that, niching down further may require speaking a different kind of language or using different words to speak to different buyers. And that it makes so much sense to me. And then as far as what you mentioned, back to that, the social proof that you were talking about, that makes so much sense, because I remember speaking with a clinician who had a very, very, I'm going to say basic website. Like stuff was kind of janky, like as far as, what you were talking about, like it was a heavily pictured background and then there was some like light text. It was hard to read. But she was crushing. And the reason why we suspect that she was crushing was because she had a picture of herself on stage talking. And she was like, she had like this power pose where she was like motioning to the projector, and there was like a huge audience, and she was giving a class on whatever it was. But to me, it just indicated this super huge amount of social proof. It's like you're going to the website like, dang, look at her. Like she's speaking, she's an authority figure,
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense that, incorporating some social proof in that form could be very helpful for the website to be successful. How important is it to have pictures and maybe even video on your website, Miranda?
Oh, so important. I always recommend it. I know a lot of people, I have a lot of clients that are like, well, I don't really have pictures. And I'm like, okay, can you at least just take me do a 15-second video? Here's a script. Just say something. That stuff helps so much. And I think professional photos are always just nice to have. Like, I know I have my professional photos. I think that they're just good to have. So I always recommend those, like, if you have them. But when it comes to videos, what's so nice about, like, in 2026, video content is like, people want to feel like they're just FaceTiming with you now. So you don't have to have really fancy video taking skills at all. Just literally 15 seconds, just be like, show who you are, say what you do, and just have that confidence. Like, you can do that in 15 seconds. And that changes the entire, like, everything about your marketing, your Psychology Today profiles. Like, it changes so much. I strongly recommend it.
Yeah, and it blows my mind when I see Psychology Today profiles and they have like one or two pictures, and I'm like, there's so much digital real estate, so to speak, and we're not taking it. Like it blows my mind. I'm like, why don't you put up a video on there and more pages, or
Yeah.
excuse me, more pictures, leaving a lot on the table, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, Miranda, when it comes to stock photos, can we talk about stock photos for a bit?
Yes.
What's your opinion on stock photos? Because I'll see these beautiful websites with like stock photos, and there's like a debate in the marketing world. It seems like where it's like, don't use stock photos, like that's trash, and then other people are like, they're great, you know, they fill space and they convey a message. Like, what are your thoughts on stock photos?
You know, I love this conversation. So hopefully I can say this, but this is what I usually say is there's such thing as stock block. I know it's kind of silly, but there's such thing as like having stock photos that are absolutely just blocking. You just like people are just like this is probably fake. This is probably AI. You do not get trust. But there are stock photos that are tasteful, right? And when you put photos on a website, I think that a lot of a lot of therapists they really have this struggle where they're not sure what kind of photos to put. And a lot of them are like, okay, well, let's put pictures of sad people because we're talking about sad stuff on here. No, 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 no. Do not put pictures of sad people. People are on there looking for help. They are not looking to be reminded that they had a terrible day.
Mm.
So I think that like when you have pictures on there, you definitely want pictures of people happy, but you don't want to put yourself in a stock block. Okay. So having those like overly light filtered, fake, phony looking ones they're not going to work. They do lose trust. But when you have those ones that just feel a little bit more natural, they have maybe a little bit more natural lighting to them. They just seem like a little bit more tasteful. It's okay to have a couple of like those cheesy ones, but when it's like really filled out in the page,
Mhm.
it flushes the whole thing out. It
Mhm.
loses trust. And if you are like, well, I really like these types of photos, you have to put more pictures of yourself in there. Like
Oh, got
you
it.
really have to do it. Like have them all throughout there because I mean, when you go, say you're going on an agency website, right, and you're looking for marketing too, like and you're looking for people that like somebody you can have a conversation with, right? Like you want to be able to call customer support. You want to be able to have this relationship. Like, are you more likely to go with the company where it's just all these stock photos, or are you likely to go with a company where it's like this is the face I'm expecting to be talking to when I call them,
Mm.
right? Because it's like it's a big deal. It makes a big difference, especially with the AI world. Like people are losing trust, and I mean even a little before too, but I think it's a lot worse now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that, adding more pictures of the self to kind of balance out the stock photos. And yeah, that's a pretty good strategy or tactic to do for sure. What about you know, as a therapist kind of completes their website and they hear the guidance and they're like, all right, Miranda, I trust you. I'm going to do what you're telling me to do. I'm going to get to the pictures, the video, whatever. And then they're not seeing results because I imagine that can happen from time to time. What would you kind of advise your client in that moment? Are you telling them to kind of wait it out because it does take time to kind of build something out, or are we tinkering almost immediately? What's kind of your stance on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that what happens then is we're missing phase three. So phase one is that niching specialization. Phase two is getting that website really primed up. Phase three is visibility. So the only people, just because you have this website, a lot of people think this, my website's out, people are just flooding in. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen for anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a therapist, whatever, right? It doesn't happen for anybody. So once you have this website, while you're building all of your other marketing, or let's say you don't have budget for marketing anymore, right? You need to share that link with everyone. Share it with your cousin, put it in all the Facebook groups, share it on your Facebook, your Instagram, um, everybody, every opportunity that you have. Now, don't be a spammy weirdo, right? Like, we don't want to be like that, but like, share it with everybody, even if it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like when you're in the Facebook groups, I mean, that's open. People share that stuff, and you never know who's looking at it, right? Share all of that stuff with people. Update that Psychology Today. Like you already have visibility platforms available. Like if you are on Psychology Today or Headway or all of those things, update it, right? You have that option. And then let's just say it's very rare that you won't have some people actually like you getting people actually circulating through there when you're doing this. But let's just say you weren't, or you're like, okay, but I need more. The next step is like, okay, so how else can we get in front of people? Are you networking, right? I know networking is kind of hard for some people, but like, let's network, right? Let's figure out how to get you more in front of people, because people just can't find you. Just, you can't, if you're just sitting there hoping that like people are just going to find you, it's not going to happen like that. And then, you know, with going back into the SEO thing, people are like, well, what if I pay all this SEO? There's this big thing, like when new websites start, Google, a lot of people miss this with SEO. Yes, words matter, keywords matter. But also Google will pick up if people are coming to your site and how long they're staying on it for. So if that website's all primed up and you're sharing that link, right? Say even, you know, another clinician is just cruising on it and she likes it. She's going through it. She's scrolling on it. You are now getting visibility. Google is picking up on how long people are staying on your page, and that builds your authority online, and that builds your SEO. So you want to just share this thing, and the more that you're sharing it, getting people on it, and just like really just in that website, that builds so much more for you. You're actually, you don't see it, but it's happening.
Yeah, wow, that's really good insight. Miranda, you talked earlier about how therapists sometimes will kind of you know, spend a lot of money on SEO and things like marketing and stuff like that, Google ads, meta ads, whatever. Um, and it's really unfortunate, you know, because a lot of therapists are really trying to grow their businesses and get to a point where they have a lot more discretionary income. But to start off, like those dollars are precious, you know, and then they kind of get, you know, bamboozled in a way into these things. And they're buying things that they may not need in the moment. So, how do therapists know when they're buying hope instead of strategy?
Yeah, so I mean, just to be clear too, like you know, SEO, Google Ads, those things they work, but not in the beginning. So I just want to make that clear for anybody who's listening. If they're like, okay, well, they're saying that Google Ads and SEO are crap. That's not true. It's just, you know, time, right? You're not going to put sauce on the spaghetti before you make the noodles, right? So it's
Absolutely.
just, yeah. So I think that when it comes to like like the hope thing, like how you really know is, you know, I really recommend follow these steps with like the niching, that fully developed website. And you know, when you are, say you are, you know, purchasing like the SEO and maybe things just aren't working, then that's okay to like kind of just like take a step back and just like really reframe things. I think that a lot of therapists, they think, okay, I have all these eggs that I might have to put in all these different baskets, and that's just draining. That it costs more money doing that. It's hard for you to keep up with things and to keep track of, you know, and stay up to date with your strategies and stuff when you're putting all your eggs in all these different baskets. So what I recommend is, if you really are trying to be more strategic, and less just like, you know, throwing spaghetti at the wall, I recommend start with one thing, maybe two, maybe like start with networking and then being like, okay, I'm going to put aside maybe this much money for social media. Give it a try before you go all in, and see, like, some of these things are like, social media is sometimes a slow burn tool. So there are some things that you have to be patient on, but you want to make sure that you're working with somebody who is like educating you on those things too, right? And like not trying to convince you to do more unless you can really see, like, you know, what that would look like. But start little and then kind of decide, okay, if this is working for me or not. Now, if your goal is like, I really don't have time for a slow burn and I really need results right now, I got to fill this caseload literally right now, then you want to speak to a marketing professional who knows what that means. So that might actually mean running a Google ad. Google ads are likely to get you people instantly, right? It gets them down that funnel. But you have to, when you have Google ads, you have to have that website that's niche. So like we were talking about those services pages, right? So, you know, we were talking about like eating disorder teens and, you know, adults, right? So if you're like, hey, I need more eating disorder teens, you run a Google ad on that service page. You don't just do it on your home page, and it's more likely to convert. So you just want to make sure that, you got to be strategic. There is a little bit of hope. I think there's just more like resilience, right? Like you
Mm.
have to have that resilience to like be okay that maybe this wasn't right, pull back, it's your business. It's okay to be like, hey, this isn't working for me. Let's try something new. Like that is totally okay. But you also have to be mindful too. You don't want to pull back too early. So it's a lot. It can be a lot, but once you figure out that thing, um, it just starts working for you. So
Yeah.
hopefully that answered your question. It's kind of a loaded question.
No, it's great. You gave me great insight, especially as far as providing clarity, that strategy and hope are things, and then being able to just wait and tinker as necessary. But it's really just based on your goals,
Mhm.
and the needs, right? If somebody's, like you said, trying to build a practice like right now, and I need clients, then we may need to invest in, a marketing campaign, whether it's Google ads or Meta ads or whatever that may be. And that makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciate what you said about resilience, because it reminds me of a quote I heard. I forgot who said it. It was this, investment banker, and he said, "Everybody can be rich, but not everybody has the stomach for it."
Mhm.
Because of the weathering the economic storms and the losses and the hits, and some investments are going to fail, right? And I think that's so true, because some people just can't deal with the loss of just money not being fruitful. But yeah, so I really appreciate that, Miranda. I wanted to kind of shift gears a little bit and ask about any advice you would give to a new therapist that's entering the field but may not have the money to like invest in a high quality, professionally made website. What are some things that you would tell that individual?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much because that's like a lot of my client base is like maybe they're in an agency or a group practice and they're like, I'm trying to jump into my own thing. And I think it's one of like if you don't have a budget, I think it's one of those things. Talk to somebody who can work with you with that. There are people like that. I know that that's something that like I like to offer with my services with people because I get it. Like it is hard, especially just like jumping into that. And then also just, I mean, really think about like what makes you different, what fills you up. Like trying to avoid getting into that like scarcity mindset of like what we were talking about earlier, being like worried that you won't get clients to fill your caseload if you are unless you're keeping it like more broad. Kind of pull away from that. And then also too, like you don't want to be one of those people who is like, okay, I'm going to jump into practice. I know that the budget is small, but you don't want to be like, okay, I know that I need to do these things to accelerate my business, but then push it off. And then you
Mhm.
push it off and you're still not getting results, right?
Yeah.
And the more that you push off, and I see this happen sometimes, you push off, you're feeling drained, the money is draining now, no results are happening, you get scared, and then you walk away. You don't want to put yourself in that position because it's not only scary that entire ride and feel really draining during that, but after when you go back to that agency, you remind yourself like I left this for a reason. So it's scary for every single business owner, every practice owner. It is a scary thing, but I strongly recommend find somebody that you want to work with, somebody that you trust that will help you get there and that will work with you on these things and just be up and honest about it too. Like we don't need to like work with somebody that you can trust to have that conversation with. I know that you guys are all like, you try not to speak too much about what you have going on, but you want to work with somebody who's comfortable with doing that with you guys. That's very, very important.
Yeah, 100% agreed on that. Yeah, I think it's really important to find somebody that you can trust with and be honest with,
Mhm.
and be open about the financial state of affairs so
Mhm.
that they can work with you. And it's so interesting because we do that as therapists. A lot of us actually, we do
I
the
know.
sliding scale, but that requires somebody to be honest with us and say, hey, I can't
Mhm.
afford it, I got finance, whatever. And then we work with those clients, and then we kind of determine where on that scale we're going to land for that client. But like you said, a lot of therapists may not necessarily do that for
Yeah.
themselves, so
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Miranda, I'd like to ask, how many websites have you done to date?
Oh my gosh. That is so many. I've done a lot. I mean, I've been doing websites for a long time.
Mhm.
I've got to say hundreds at this point. I mean, maybe even more. I mean, I worked at agencies. I've done so many websites. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been professionally like getting paid to do like marketing and websites and stuff since 2017. So, um, yeah, almost 10 years. So,
Yeah. So a lot of websites,
A lot of
a lot of
work, a
websites
lot of
in
work.
your
Yeah.
portfolio. Yeah. What has the feedback been from your clients that work with you?
Yeah, a lot of them. So like my favorite part is like watching them just like feel that spark and get filled up. I mean, obviously a lot of them when they are, I have some that are coming to me that are just like, hey Miranda, like this is my last hope right now. Like if I don't start seeing change in my business, then I'm gonna have to shut down at this date. And you know, we see that, and we also see people who are just now coming in and they're scared. Like it's very common. Like it's a very common thing, and to watch them like feel that spark of joy again, like once they see the website, and then once we start to launch fairly quickly, if you do step 3 and you get that visibility out there, I have clients who we hadn't even started pushing out the marketing stuff yet. Like, and they were just throwing their link everywhere in these like Facebook groups and Instagram, sharing with their cousin and like just spending time on it and stuff quickly. And they're getting consistent people coming from their website, just like consistently. It's so exciting to see. I actually had a client too, like she came to me, she was like, you know, I'm starting a group practice. Wonderful psychologist. Like she's intelligent beyond belief. And I was so grateful to have met her. And she ended up, we revamped her website. She had one of those Wix websites that she made. It was had those stock photos that were kind of sad looking, made you feel kind of sad looking, and it didn't represent her practice at all or her demographic. And because where she's at specifically, she's in Grand Rapids area in Michigan. We got like more of our college students and stuff there. So we really just flipped gears, and very quickly she got a very beautiful location. She not only was attracting more people to fill the caseload, but now she's and all of her clinicians' caseload, but now she's attracting people who want to work with her. And she very quickly ended up jumping into opening up psychiatry. And there is a shortage in psychiatry in Michigan. And she's just getting started, right? But she had 3 psychiatrists that were just like, I love everything about your practice. I want to work with you, knowing that that the cut was probably going to be a little bit shorter than if they were to go work for like a bigger agency, right? So I find that very, very special because that happened in less than a year. And seeing it like literally just very instantly change for people, like they see the momentum and then it just builds up and then it snowballs like that. I don't know. I absolutely love that. And I love to see them feel lit up again because they hit rock bottom sometimes, or sometimes they're just scared and not knowing what to do. You feel stuck. So.
Yeah, well, that is so interesting because that is an angle that I did not consider, and that is that not only are you attracting clients to the caseload, but you're also attracting talent to work with you, right? And that's another thing is like when you're a talented individual and you're going through like you're also looking at the company's brand and how they present. Is it basic? Is it kind of dookie? Does it look good? Is it professionally made? Like, what is the impression that the website gives out? And you know, I never thought about it like that, that if you have a really good website made, then that signals to other professionals like, hey, we care about our business. You know, we invest money in our assets. And this is why you should work with us, right? Because we're probably a pretty good company to work for. And that makes so much sense, Miranda. I'm so glad that you said that.
Yeah, yeah. And it was really cool. She does talks and stuff now too, like with other clinicians. And she talks about the importance of having a website. Even if she's not selling them or anything, but she's like, get your branding together, get your niche together. And it's just, oh my, it's adorable. I love hearing that. Yeah.
She's an expert now, huh?
She
After working
is.
with
She
you. Yeah.
is. Because I love marketing, so maybe I'm biased, but like I see it happen to other therapists too. Like when you just find the thing that works right for you,
Mhm.
get excited. It's an exciting thing, and like once you start feeling the ball rolling, it's a wonderful thing. So once you get into that space, like it's a whole entire mindset shift. It's a you know, you're happier, right? This is the reason, this was your why. This is what your goals were when you were like, I'm going to do all this school and be a therapist. This is what
Yeah.
you were hoping. Well, it might be a little different, but it's good. It's all positive.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Miranda, I'd like to ask about pricing, if that's okay. I mean, I know that the pricing varies based on the requirement of the customer, and so it's hard to like say this is what it costs, right? And I'm not going to ask you for specifics in that regard, but if somebody wants to partner with you and they may not be able to pay all up front? Do you do a kind of payment plan situation? Like, how does maybe financing work? Is that an option?
Yeah, definitely. So how I usually do it is it's one of those things where it's like I'll sit and have a conversation with you, and yeah, I want to know your goals first because it's one of those things where I want to know your goals, I want to know your budget because there's different ways we can do this. If we need to eliminate some pages or we want to add pages, that's what we can do based off of what's going to work for you. And then yes, I absolutely do offer payment plans. I do like a 3-month one, and I also do a 6-month payment plan. Obviously, we do a paid in full too. Now, if you're one of those people too who's like, well, I'm not really sure, or maybe you're like, I have a website, but I don't know if it's really working for me or not. Like, I also offer strategy calls too, where it's a one-on-one call where I'll go through your whole website with you. Or if you don't have a website and you have a simple practice landing, whatever it may be, or you're just like, I need help. Like, I just don't know what to do. I just feel stuck. Then we can have a one-on-one strategy call, and I will do a whole audit of what you have going on and then tell you like, hey, this is what you need to do. And if it's something where it's like, maybe it's something that I won't be able to help you with, then I will point you in the right direction too. But I work with a lot of people too. So it's like, I will hand you to someone that I trust that will help you with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's good to know that there are some flexible payment options for
Mhm.
clinicians who are kind of like on a bit of a budget,
Mhm.
and who may need that. So that's a really cool thing. Miranda, for those people that watch this episode, they like what they're hearing, they like your vibe, they like the painting in the back, and they're like, I like this artist. Um, and they want to partner with you. How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's mindfulmessaging.com. You can go on there. I do have a very easy like book calendar link you can book on there. I also do have my email on there as well. It's just Miranda at mindfulmessaging.com. You can always email me. Yeah, I mean, even if you just want to say like, hi, how's it going? Like, you got a question, like, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm genuinely passionate about this. So,
Awesome. Thank you for
yeah.
that, Miranda. And we'll make sure to put those in the show notes as well. This has been great. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Miranda. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And I really look forward to maybe doing it again in the future. How does that sound?
Yes, I would love that. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again. All right. Bye, everybody.